Johor Bahru and the region surrounding it used to have one of the best bus networks in the country, comprising of Bas Alek, Bas Maju, and T Hakim, complemented by regional services provided by South Johor and Singapore routes provided by both SBS and SJE. The ridership on the current services, regionally speaking, is still the best in the country, outside of Kuala Lumpur and Penang. However, the current state of services are a far cry from what they used to be, a shadow of their former selves. I am unsure if the current situation was caused by the ill-conceived decisions by Putrajaya over the last decade in conjunction with the state government, or if the failure of public transport was solely due to the mismanagement by the current and former state governments. Let us cut to the RTS situation, the new rail link between Woodlands North in Singapore and Bukit Jaga in Johor Bahru. In a recent article published in the Straits Times, there was a shocking statistic indicating that despite millions of ringgit being invested in Johor's bus network, only 37,000 people use the network on a daily basis, which means that barely 2% of the city's population uses transit. Compare that number to the 350,000 people who cross the causeway every day. The article points to familiar problems: buses with poor frequencies, routes that don't go where people want to go, and journeys that take far longer than driving. But there are a lot more problems than what was highlighted in the article. The first thing would be identifying a bus stop. There are several bus stops in the city with no shelter or sign identifying them as such. One such example would be the 777 stop in Taman Ungkutunamina in Skudai. Even when there is a sign indicating an existence of a bus stop and a shelter, you would find that there is no information indicating what service, if any, stops at that particular bus stop. Let us say that you found a bus stop and the bus service that uses that stop. The next biggest issue would be figuring out when the bus would arrive at the bus stop, especially if that stop is in the middle of the route. An example of this situation would be as follows. You are departing Pekananas bound for Johor Bahru, and Google Maps indicates that there is a bus J50 scheduled to arrive there at 7:48 a.m. You are also aware that the scheduled departure from Pontian is at 7:40 a.m. In an ideal world, you would head to the stop 5 minutes ahead of time and flag the bus down. But in reality, you are aware that the bus may depart Pontian 5 minutes ahead of schedule, and the driver's main incentive is to finish the run as quickly as possible. Therefore, you end up heading to the bus stop 20 minutes ahead of the scheduled time and wave your hands frantically when you see the bus to make sure that it hopefully stops for you. Considering how painful it is to use the bus, you wonder why people prefer using a Grab or a motorcycle to get to a point where it is reliable enough to use public transportation. Those reliable points tend to be places like Johor Bahru, Gelang Pata, Kota Tinggi, and Pontian, to name a few. The other issue is with regards to a lack of a standardized ticketing system. The Manja link for both Basmai and Causeway link services, IC for PAJ services, which effectively means visitors cannot use part of the public transportation system. The upcoming KTM commuter Selatan service, which would invariably use touch and go. That becomes a major problem, not only for the residents of Johor, but will also impact the Johor-Singapore Free Trade Zone and people who have relatives and close friends on both sides of the border. An example, a close relative of yours is studying in a vocational college in JB, served by Route B113. One of your other relatives lives across the border, Admiralty or Woodlands. How would they be able to get to that vocational college? They would take SBS 170 all the way to Larkin Bus Terminal, and we'll find out They cannot board P113 because they don't happen to carry a Malaysian IC. Example that might be more relatable would be a resident of Skudai who works at Changi Airport. In order to get there, they may use the J40 to get to Larkin Central, fared using the Manjaro card. Then they would have to collect the Changi card and pay the 1 minute to access the Singapore branch at Larkin Central. They might then have to pull out their Easy Link card to use 1 minute to get into Singapore. Why hassle? Over the next couple of days and months, both the Ministry of Transport and the Menteri Besar will be encouraging people to leave their motorbikes and cars at home and embrace public transportation. We need to let them know that the current system as it stands is very dysfunctional and unacceptable. The politicians who sit in Johor State Assembly should take public transportation themselves to see the real hardship